Wow. Have you seen the price of new cars lately? I mean, it's crazy. Almost $50,000 on average.
Yeah, it's definitely getting up there.
So in this deep dive, we're going to figure out just why that is.
Okay.
Why cars have gotten so expensive and how American companies are, kind of facing a challenge from China,
Right.
especially when it comes to EVs.
Yeah.
So all of our sources for this one are about industry analysis, reports and things like that.
Cool.
So let's jump in.
Yeah, let's do it.
So first of all, sticker shock.
Yeah.
I mean, 5 years, prices are up almost 30%.
It's wild. And it's not just inflation, everyday inflation,
Yeah.
but it's way faster than that.
Yeah.
And now basically if you want a new car under $20,000, it's pretty much impossible.
Right. Like you used to be able to get a decent new car for under 20,000.
Totally.
I mean, what happened to those days?
Gone.
And, and now it seems like everything on the road is an SUV.
Yeah, you're not wrong. SUVs are like over half of sales now?
Yeah, more than half of new car sales.
Which is crazy because like a decade ago it was only like 30%.
Yeah, like it seems like almost every other car is a giant SUV.
Yeah. And you know what? This isn't random. This is actually strategic by the American car companies.
Really?
Yeah, they're laser focused on profits, and SUVs, yeah, they just have way bigger margins than smaller cars.
Right, so they make more money on each SUV.
Exactly.
But they sell less cars, so...
Well, yeah, less cars but more money overall. I mean, look at Ford and GM. They've been making record profits recently.
Yeah. So are they purposely not making smaller cars so they can sell these more expensive SUVs?
I mean, kind of, yeah. But then you also got to, you got to factor in COVID. I mean, that messed everything up.
Yeah, the pandemic really threw everything out of whack.
Supply chains went haywire,
Yeah.
Parts shortages, production shutdowns. There just weren't enough cars to meet demand.
And dealers were jacking up prices too, right? Because they knew they could get away with it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Scarcity, it always drives prices up. And that just made the whole high profit model even more attractive.
So basically, we had this perfect storm of companies wanting to make more profit on each car than the pandemic causing a shortage and dealers taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And, right as all that was happening, China started really making moves in the car industry.
Oh yeah, I've been reading about that.
It's kind of a game changer. They're building EVs for way less than we are.
How much less are we talking here?
Like 30% cheaper, even without any help from their government.
30%. How are they doing that? What's their secret?
Well, for one thing, they're just super efficient. Like they can develop a new car in under 2 years.
Seriously, 2 years. That's amazing. I mean, how long does it take, a Ford or a Chevy to come out with a new model?
5 years, sometimes even more. It's a totally different approach.
So what are they doing differently?
Well, for one thing, they're really embracing these new technologies like virtual testing.
Virtual testing. What is that?
Basically, they're building and testing cars in a virtual world before they ever build a physical prototype.
So they're simulating everything on a computer.
Exactly. Saves a ton of time and money.
That's incredible.
Yeah, they're really thinking outside the box. They also have this software-defined approach to their EVs, which means, they can update them just like your phone, constantly getting better.
So their cars are they're like iPhones on wheels.
Pretty much. Yeah. Always evolving, adding new features, staying ahead of the curve.
It sounds like they're building cars for the future while we're still kind of stuck in the past.
Well, I wouldn't say stuck in the past. I mean, look at Tesla. They're an American company and they're doing amazing things.
Yeah, they're definitely an innovator. And they've really embraced that vertical integration thing, right? Controlling their whole supply chain.
Yeah, that's a big part of their success.
Yeah.
By controlling more of the process, they can cut costs, they can move faster, and they're not as reliant on outside suppliers.
So they're like a self-contained EV machine.
Pretty much. And some of the Chinese companies like BYD, they're starting to follow Tesla's lead on that.
So they're learning from the best.
Exactly. And then there's this first principles thinking that Tesla really embodies.
First principles, what's that?
It's about constantly questioning assumptions, going back to the basics and figuring out the most efficient way to do things, not just doing things the way they've always been done.
So they're not afraid to challenge the status quo.
Not at all. And that's how they come up with these groundbreaking innovations.
Okay, so we've got China winning on speed, efficiency, and tech. Can American companies catch up?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
Like, and what do our sources have to say about that? Well, one thing the sources point to is more collaboration.
Collaboration. You mean like American car companies working together?
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. Interesting. I always thought it was like super competitive, like Ford versus Chevy, all
Oh,
that.
it definitely is.
Yeah.
But the sources are saying, maybe they need to start thinking differently if they want to compete with China.
Okay, so what would that look like? Like how could they collaborate?
Well, they could partner up, maybe form some joint ventures, things like that.
Okay, but like what would they actually do together?
Well, for one thing, developing new technologies is super expensive.
Yeah.
Like batteries, driver assistance systems, all that stuff.
Right.
So instead of each company spending, millions and millions of dollars on R&D, they could split the costs.
Oh, so they'd be sharing the burden.
Exactly. And then they could create a shared platform that benefits all of them.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like teamwork basically, combining their strengths.
Yeah, exactly. And they could even, partner with tech companies.
Tech companies
Yeah.
like Apple or Google?
Yeah, like those guys.
Yeah.
They're the experts in software, AI, all that stuff.
Right.
So imagine your car is like your smartphone, constantly getting updates, new features, all that.
Wow, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So American car companies could team up with Silicon Valley to build these super high-tech cars.
That's the idea. And it's not just about technology. They could also collaborate on manufacturing.
Manufacturing. You mean like building cars together?
Yeah, like imagine a giant state-of-the-art factory, but it's owned by a group of American car
No,
companies.
they'd be sharing the cost of building this mega factory.
Right. And they could, produce EVs for multiple brands all in one place.
Okay, and that would make it cheaper, right?
Yeah, because they'd be achieving economies of scale, buying parts in bulk, all that.
Right. So it's like Costco for cars.
Uh-huh. Kinda. Yeah. And the sources also talk about going international.
International, you mean like collaborating with companies in other countries?
Exactly. Like Japan or South Korea, they're really ahead of the game when it comes to EVs.
Okay, so American companies could learn from them, maybe even build cars together in those countries.
Yeah, that's the idea. It's like a global EV alliance.
Wow, that's a really interesting idea. But all this talk about collaboration, automation, it makes me wonder about jobs.
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
Like if robots are building the cars, what happens to the workers?
Well, the sources, they acknowledge that there will be challenges,
Yeah.
but they also emphasize the need for retraining.
Retrain, like teaching people new skills.
Exactly.
Mhm.
The jobs of the future in the auto industry, they're going to be different.
Yeah.
More software, data analytics, things like that.
So it's not just about building cars anymore. It's about building the brains of the cars.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay,
Yeah.
so workers will need to adapt, learn new skills to stay competitive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even with the best training, this kind of change, it takes time.
Right. It's not going to happen overnight. So how long do you think it'll take for American car companies to really catch up?
Well, the sources are saying it's a multi-year process.
Multi-year. Wow. So we're talking like 5 years, 10 years.
Could be, yeah. And that's if they start making changes now.
Right. So they gotta get moving.
Yeah, the window of opportunity is definitely closing.
Okay. So we've talked about economics, technology, all that, but what about the environment?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
I mean, EVs they're supposed to be better for the planet,
Yeah.
right?
Well, yeah, in theory, but it's not quite that simple.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Mining the materials for the batteries, like lithium, cobalt, all that, that's not exactly eco-friendly.
Oh, right. So there's an environmental impact even before the car is even built.
Exactly. And then there's the question of what happens to the batteries when they die.
Yeah, what do you do with all those giant
Actually,
batteries?
We gotta figure out how to recycle them properly. Make sure they don't end up in a landfill somewhere.
So it's not just about building EVs, it's about building a whole sustainable ecosystem around them.
Exactly. It's a huge challenge, but it's also a huge opportunity.
Right. If we do it right, we could really make a difference.
Absolutely. The stakes they're incredibly high.
Yeah, this is about the future of transportation, the future of the planet. No pressure, right? Okay, so So we've got a lot to think about. American car companies, they're facing some serious challenges, but there are also some really exciting possibilities.
Yeah, I think the next few years are going to be they're going to be pretty wild.
I think you're right about that. Well, this has been a fascinating look at the car industry, the US versus China, all that.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a really interesting time to be following this stuff.
It really is. So we'll continue exploring this in part 3 of our deep dive. All right, so we're back, and we've been talking about this whole U.S. China car war thing.
Yeah.
But what does it actually mean for for regular people like us?
Right, like what's the future of car buying going to look like?
Exactly.
Well, the good news is I think you might actually have more choices than you think.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, and things might actually get a little bit more affordable too.
more affordable. Okay, now you've got my attention.
Yeah.
Right.
So EVs are really changing the game, right?
Right.
And there's like this huge wave of new models coming out, sedans, coupes, SUVs, pickups, you name it.
So it's not just those kind of boring, boxy EVs anymore.
No, not at all. There's something for everyone now. And
Mm.
and with more companies getting into the EV game, there's more competition,
Right.
which means faster innovation, better cars, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So what about like the whole car buying experience? Is that going to change too?
Oh, definitely. I mean, online car configurators are getting really popular.
Right.
And some companies are even like selling cars directly to consumers online, completely bypassing dealerships.
So no more haggling with sleazy salespeople.
Maybe not, but dealerships, they're not going away entirely.
Okay.
They'll probably evolve and maybe focus more on service and maintenance or become more like showrooms.
Right, right. So you can like test drive the car and then buy it online.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the cost, right? Like, are we all gonna have to like take out a second mortgage to afford an EV?
Yeah, I mean, affordability is a big concern. And now they're still more expensive than gas cars.
Right.
But that's likely to change as battery tech gets better and production ramps up.
Okay.
And don't forget about government incentives, tax breaks, things like that.
Right,
We're already seeing some EV models that are pretty competitively priced.
Okay, so maybe EVs won't be like a luxury item forever.
Right. And as more affordable models come out, it'll put pressure on the whole market, Prices will have to come down.
Okay, so what about like used cars?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like if everyone's switching to EVs, what happens to all the old gas guzzlers?
Well, as demand for new EVs goes up, demand for used gas cars could go down,
right.
which could mean lower
Yeah.
prices.
So it might be a good time to snag a deal on a used car.
Possibly, yeah. But
Hmm.
but the used car market it's always kind of unpredictable.
True, true. Okay, so there's a lot of uncertainty,
Yeah.
but overall it sounds like there are some pretty exciting things happening in the car world.
Oh, absolutely. The auto industry it's going through a massive transformation.
Yeah. I mean, who knows what cars are going to look like in 5 years, 10 years.
It's going to be a wild ride.
Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive into the car wars. Thanks for breaking it all down for us.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, think about it. What kind of car are you going to be driving in the future? Electric, gas, something totally different. The future of transportation it's full of possibilities, and the choices we make today, they're going to shape the world of tomorrow. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the US-China car wars.